All right, welcome back, guys. And today I am so excited. We have a good friend of mine, Dr. Anissa Broussard, who is on here with us. And I can't wait because, listen, today's guest, she took a small island practice in Jamaica and literally like turned it into a case study. And really what's possible and really what's possible when a dentist actually understands marketing. Okay. And so that's going to be some of the things that we get into today. I would say that she's since then become one of the leading digital marketing experts. She was a keynote at AACD, also Funnel Hacking Live, social media marketing world. And now she's running one of the top agencies inside of the game called Digital Floss. So welcome, Anissa. We're super excited to have you. Can't wait for this interview. I'm looking for some fire.
I can't wait either. This is going to be fun.
So real quick question. Like I had an opportunity to sit and just visit with you a little bit. We were just at an incredible conference in Atlanta. Eric Morin had a great conference there with Tower Leadership called Impact Summit. So we had an opportunity to visit some there. But like when you're at a conference and somebody just comes up to you and asks you like, so what do you actually do? What is your answer now? Because I mean, you're not only a dentist, but you're this incredible marketing expert. And that can sometimes be a question. So I'm just curious for like, what is your response to that?
Yeah. So I think that we're all of it, right? So I am, I'm a mom, right? I'm a woman, all of that, right? But in terms of my professional career, I started off as a dentist, did 20 years of clinical dentistry, doing a lot of complex restorative cases, restoring implants, veneers, all of that was really heavily involved in AACD. And then honestly, a couple things happened. One is I got a little bit bored, to be honest. Yes. I realized I like to solve newer problems and that was part of it. But then my practice coach, after I received some awards with the coaching globally with Action Coach, she's like, what's next? What's your legacy going to be? So that led to me writing a book. I was the first female dentist podcaster in the industry. Why? Because after writing a book of how we built our practice, who was going to know about the book, right? So it started a podcast. Next thing people were asking was, okay, that's great. You're helping practices understand how to grow, but what are you doing with marketing, right? Because you're getting 5 or 50 patients a month from $500. You've got 50,000 people following you. Like, what are you doing? And I thought it was just like normal. Right. And so all of a sudden, this Dr. Robert Malone, who's in California, he kept emailing me and he was very persistent. And he said, I need you to teach me what you're doing with social media. I need you to teach me. And I'm like, well, I don't teach marketing, right? But long story short, one of my mentors in the podcast space said, if people are asking you for something, then you have a choice, right? Are you going to help them or you're not going to help them? And so finally I said, okay, great, I will help. And so I decided to create my Facebook course. And this was really early on. And with that journey, I've helped, I know hundreds, if not thousands of practices across the globe understand marketing. And that led me to work with Russell Brunson. And I went to Funnel Hacking Live to learn a little bit more because my course was held in ClickFunnels. Well, next thing you know, I'm in his inner circle. And next thing you know, because I'm teaching my Facebook course, I'm figuring out how to use funnels in dentistry. And he's like, okay, really, I didn't know we could use funnels in dentistry. And I'm like, yeah, Russell, right? And so next thing you know, I'm in Expert Secrets. I'm on stage at Funnel Hacking Live. And so my journey's been interesting because, I did not intend to do this. It was actually a dentist that asked me to help. But through this journey, a couple things happened. So I understood not just marketing, but understanding KPIs and systems optimization and communication and culture. And that was what my book was about, all of the things, right? And so interestingly, how our imposter syndrome plays out, there was actually a dentist in a Facebook group. And I had one of the first Facebook groups in the dental industry, delivering well. It was one of the early ones. And later on in another group, somebody's like, oh, she's a marketing girl, right? And that really, that like messed me up. I'm like, wait, I know a little bit more about other things. And so I to prove to them, or maybe to myself, I started a coaching program. And so I started delivering well, and we've coached hundreds of practices to grow and scale. And so that was my identity for 8 years, right? So it
Sure.
was coaching, having conferences, and just really helping practices. And then that led me to start a software company called Dentalflix, where, we've got 80 speakers in there who are learning, or, dentists are able to go. And then like 3 years ago, right, all of a sudden the practices and my coaching program. So, well, what about the marketing? Who's going to help me now? Right. And so I
Right.
was actually with Russell in Mexico at a tiny mastermind. Garrett White was actually in the room with me. I know he's one of your
Yes.
mentors as well. There were like 8 of us in the room. Dr. Benjamin Hardy was in the room with us. And
Nice.
I was like, okay. And they were saying, what's the problems? What are people saying now? I'm like, they need help with marketing. And so all of a sudden the tap came, right? And I just
Yes.
silenced myself, and I heard, if you don't help your colleagues with marketing, who's going to do it? And
Who's
so
going to?
I was like, okay. And so 3 years ago, we started Digital Floss. And it's been interesting because what I have really heard when I, again, silence myself, is that this is my last gift to the industry. And what I also heard is everything that I've done along has actually been a prerequisite. Because again, as an agency owner, number one, I know what it feels like to be a dentist and have to grow a
Yes.
practice, right? I understand how I grew my practice. I still own it. I've got 3 associates, but how do we build a practice that still now gets 100 patients a month and we're known in the community? Like, what did I go through? What worked, right? And then
Yes.
understanding coaching and understanding what practices need from a systems optimization, and then building software. And interestingly, with our marketing agency, we're building some really interesting software right now. We're integrating with the PMSs, and we're building out software so that marketing will have an unlimited budget, and how are we doing that? It's, tapping into AR recovery and helping with all these other things that can now help the businesses grow. And so I think, when you ask me now, what do? I own a marketing company, right? Digital Floss. And, we are helping practices to get seen as their authentic selves.
Yes.
But it's not just the heart, right? It's understanding the structure and the strategy behind it. And so if it was just heart, it might be like, oh, lovey-dovey, right? If it was just structure, which I think a lot of agencies focus on, which is like, let me just get patients in and Google ads, and there's no heart to it, that doesn't work either.
Right.
And so it's understanding how to have an equal balance of beautiful content, heartfelt content, but how do we put structure and strategy on it so that people actually see it, you get leads, and then those leads convert, right? So that's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Long answer, but that's been my journey, right?
I love it. I love it. And you've had quite the journey. Like, for those of you who don't know, like, Russell Brunson is probably one of the best marketers in our country of our time. And especially inside of the digital world and like with funnels. And I mean, he kind of just really reinvented that and just changed the paradigm around like websites and how funnels can become so powerful. And really where I think that fits in so well is especially like, you can market broad spectrum to get new patients, or you can look for a very specific problem to solve, especially like even inside of like, okay, here's like, we're going to solve this problem with dental implants or with clear aligners or whatever. So you're solving a very specific problem. And that's where I think he shines so much, is just like, oh my gosh, having the opportunity to look at how to create this marketing aspect, which when you look back at old days like Dan Kennedy and direct response marketing, I mean, Russell has done this in such a great digital age, and that you've had the opportunity to sit and just be a student in that environment. That's one of the things I think that is unique, that sets you apart, not only from being a dentist, but a dentist who understands marketing to such a degree. And you've studied under one of the best people in the world that can really teach you that, to be able to bring those concepts back to our profession. At the end of the day, it allows more people who need the treatment to get it done. And it creates a win-win for everybody. The practice wins, the team wins, the patients win, their families win. So it's a great thing to tie your heart into that, as well as with using the strategies and the tactics. So I think that's awesome. I want to take a step back though, like, and because you grew up in New Orleans, right?
That's right.
Okay, so talk to me and us a little bit about like who was Anissa growing up in New Orleans before delivering Wow and before Digital Floss, before the keynotes, and talk to me about like what was it like growing up there? Who were you as like a little girl, and like what were the influences like with your mom and your dad? And just talk to us a little bit about that so I can get a little idea from you on that, because a lot of times that has a big influence on where you are now.
Of course it does. Of course it does. I talk a lot about my upbringing and my childhood. And, it's really, really fascinating to me. I tell, lots of stories about my dad, right? And he, right out of college, actually worked at Popeye's Chicken and he was a manager. And as he walked in there, what he saw was a hot mess, to be honest, right? The employees were stealing chicken. They were throwing chicken at each other with flour on it. The orders were wrong. Customers were complaining, and it was actually the least profitable location. And so he went in there a couple weeks later and he said, we're going to have a meeting. And what he shared was number one, and also I didn't mention the employees were stealing chicken. And
Okay.
so he came in there and he said, I just want to share this with you. A couple things. Number one is I've observed that chicken is missing at the end of the day. And I want to let you know I have a daughter. She's one. That was me.
Yes.
And he's like, at the end of the night, let me know, but take the chicken, like feed your families, take it, right? He said, we are going to now start having you to initial the receipts. And if the orders are wrong, you're going to pay for it. He said, but what we're going to do is that every time we sell an apple pie or a large fry, we're going to have a whiteboard and I want you to put a tick on it. And at the end of the month, if we hit the goal, I'm going to take $5 or $10 out of my pocket. Right. And this was 50 years ago. And I want to take care of you. Right. And so a year later, they actually became the number one in terms of profitability location in all of New Orleans. And Al Copeland pulled my dad out of the location and he started training managers at Popeyes University. And so I have learned from really wonderful mentors, right? I have learned through lots of books, masterminds, but the biggest lesson I ever learned, I actually learned from my dad. And it was that when you take care of people, they'll take care of you. Right.
Yeah.
And,
true.
and, when you take care, and that is, and that led to, delivering well and all of that. But ultimately it has everything to do with number one, how we serve our clients within Digital Floss. Right.
Yes.
And I know, you've just come on board and you're experiencing that. But, when I take care of people or within our marketing, when our clients show the community that they really care about them, or within the practice, right? When the doctor just takes care of their team and loves on them or loves on the community, you really don't have to worry about anything. Like everything just kind of happens, right? And so
Agreed.
To me, that's the biggest thing. And that really shaped who I became. And the other thing that my dad taught me as well is it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter if you are a female or a male or, I'm Louisiana Creole, so I'm mixed up with everything. It doesn't matter, right?
Spicy, spicy,
right? But the only difference between you and anyone else is that they know something that you don't know. And when you learn what they know, then you can have what they have. And I think that's really, really, really impactful because
Absolutely.
it means that we can do anything. And so like when I look again, like my life and I look at the things that I've accomplished, I think that it came from those core values. So, when I was in high school, it was like, yeah, I was a leader, right? When I was in college, I was vice president of the student government. And when I was in dental school, I was national president of the SNDA. And, it just, these things have continued. And I think it's because I had my dad to believe in me and my parents to believe in me. And so those are core principles that have shaped who I am. It's shaped who I have been with my team in my dental practice and all the companies that we have. And it's ultimately shaped how we serve, right? And so I think that's the core of who I am.
I love that. I love that answer. And There's a saying, it is this, that treat me where I am and that's where I will stay, and treat me where you see me to be and that's what I can become. And that just, that made me think of that when you talked about that's how your dad just showed you, just like, hey, learn what others have, and like them seeing you in a different light. Right. And I think that's so important. I really think that's actually even a huge part of coaching, is just being able to see somebody for where they are. And then also you're actually treating them for where you already see them to be in the future.
That's right. It's like you believe in people and you're like, I see this. Do you not see this? And then you see the path, right? And a lot of it like is when you've been on the path before. And it could be like a coach. Like I know you do some amazing work, right? Coaching people, but you've been on a journey and you've figured out the solution. And so you see their path and you see the steps, right? And it was the same thing when I was, coaching. And now within the marketing agency, like I already know what's going to get the result because I've seen it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? Once when I did it, then when I taught it, then I see people implementing it. The path is really, really simple to me. And so, that's that. Or, even software, like I talked about, it's crazy. So Russell, is a really good friend. Dr. Benjamin Hardy is a good friend. We're texting, all the time. But it's interesting, like the guys at Go High Level. So that's now the big, buzz software.
Sure.
Is that many people don't know this, that, Robin and Sean and the guys, the founders, co-founders of Go High Level, this is crazy. I don't know if I've ever shared this publicly, but right when Go High Level started, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was teaching Facebook marketing and I had this idea and I'm like, we need to have this automation and it needs to be HIPAA compliant. And what needs to happen? Like somebody introduced me to them because I had this idea and they're like, go talk to these guys. So I gave them $30,000 and I was like, I need to do this to help my doctors. So I need to have this automation. And what I needed to do is when a patient makes an appointment in a funnel, because we were building funnels, I was teaching funnels, I needed to have the ability to now send them an email and a text, and it gives the forms and it sends them the directions the day of the appointment. And then after that, when they have a treatment plan, they're going to get a different email and then, or in text. And then after they have the appointment, they're going to have post-op instructions. And I needed to be HIPAA compliant. And they were like, okay, right. And they were just starting to Go High Level, right? And of course, it wasn't HIPAA compliant at the time and everything. Anyway, long story short, then I was like, what the hell am I thinking about? Like, I don't want to build a software company, right? And so I just abandoned it, right? I didn't ask for my money back. I was like, what was I thinking? Anyway, so I just went continued on teaching my Facebook course. Anyway, long story short, I was with them about a month ago because we're building out all of these really cool things.
Amazing things, right?
Even better, it's integrated in PMS and like all kind of stuff that's happening. And again, because I'm a dentist, because I have had a coaching program, I know the problems that we need to have solved, right, as dentists. And so I'm like, we just build it out and build it, right? So we got all these developers. And anyway, I see them like 3 weeks ago, and now they're running like $1 billion through like all of their automations with their customers, right? And they're walking around with like bodyguards, right? And I walked up and I'm walking around and I see them and Sean's like, oh my God, and this, Robin's like, I need to have you speak on stage next year. And I'm like, this is so crazy and they were like, you remember when we got on that call? And I'm like, yes.
Yes, I remember.
Look at look, and here we are. Like it was like an idea like 8 years too soon that's finally coming to fruition. And yes, I'm building software, and it's just crazy, right?
That's wild. I mean, if you guys can't see, like just in what she shared with how her mind works, like let's build this, let's automate this. And then you are thinking through the entire patient journey and how can we actually take things off the team's plate and allow this to have patients who actually have a white glove feel from your office. And that's what you create for your clients. That's been my experience with you guys. And that's what you're creating for your clients. But that's also what you're also going to look at incorporating for your clients to be able to create for their patients.
Oh, yeah. And it's fascinating when you start looking at like what's possible right now, right, with AI. And so and I'm not sure when this is going to air, but next month I'm actually sunsetting my coaching program after 8 years, right? Which is like exciting but bittersweet at the same time. And I was actually on a call with a practice and a treatment coordinator, and their biggest issue was that follow-ups, right? So you have 5
Right.
plans that you put out on Monday, and then on Tuesday you got 5 more, and then they start stacking, right? So
Right.
one human follow up on all of these treatment plans, can send out, make sure that they've applied for financing and see where they are in their journey. And like, it's just kind of impossible, right? But with AI, and I'm like, oh, cool, we can solve for that. Like we can create AI voice agents. And why don't we just do this? And again, like this is how my brain works, because we can create like ambassadors, right? So
Right.
what we're doing right now, literally like every morning at 9 a.m., I have a tech meeting with all my developers, and I sit there and I dream, and they tell me what they have. And then we just dream more. And then the next day they show me what they built. Like this is my every morning. So I'm like, all right, guys, so this is what we're going to do. So we have a copy from the copy calls. We have transcripts from the copy calls. And then we have these brand guides, right? Which, is the brand guides, like 30, 40, 50
Yes.
pages of like scripts. And it's all, so then we now use AI to analyze the tone of the actual doctor, right? So then now we can use the AI, we can take the tone, and then with the tone, this is what we're doing. This is crazy. So now we are building custom ambassadors for each practice. I'm thinking about if I'm going to release
Wow.
this to the actual doctor's practice, or if we're just going to use it internally. I'm probably going to actually have the doctors to be able to use it. So anything that you want to use is literally like your AI ambassador, right? So it's been trained and everything.
Amazing.
Prompting's already done. So now with all of these, like 1 minute after, let's just say a lead comes in your own tone. Okay. So not like one of these companies that are just like using voice AI receptionists, but it's literally trained on your actual tone based on a copy call with a real human. Right.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's what's being built. And like, it's like almost done. So
That's
now,
amazing.
the AI, like all of this stuff, treatment planning, follow-ups, going in and looking at AR, and like going in and calling and dialing and texting and all the things to get the AR back in. Your office has come up for audit. We want to be able to help you. If you're able to pay right now, sending a payment link. Like this is why AI is so
Huge.
amazing, right? And at the same time, what are they doing in the practice? All right, here's what they're doing in practice. Mr. Joe, how you been? How's
Yeah.
your family? Right? It's so good to let me go get a cup of coffee. Sit
Connecting,
down and talk to you, right? Because all of that stuff is going on over there,
being
right?
taken care of.
In your own voice, right?
Ah,
Like it's like so good. I am so
I
excited the age that we're in right now.
I love it. I love it. I love your passion. I love, just like you said though, what it does is that allows it allows your voice to continue to extend through something that can become automated in AI, and also too gets back to what we're really good at, which is creating relationships.
That's right.
And nothing in this world works without relationship. And so getting back to, just like you said, Mr. Joe, can I get you a cup of coffee? Can I get you a water? And what's been going on in your world? And just getting down to like true what matters and what makes the difference in this world. You know, I think that, if you sit there, you can hear your passion and
Yeah,
everything.
I love geeking out on this
And
stuff.
it's so awesome. It's so awesome. I want to ask you a question. So you've probably helped hundreds, if not thousands, of practices grow with your social media. But what do you think were the I would say, common mindset blocks that you keep, or that you kept seeing repeated over and over again with owners who were stuck?
Yeah, I can tell you it's a couple things. Number one might be I'm stuck because I don't have time to do it myself. Okay, so that's obviously something that we've solved for, right? Because we fly out, we get
Yes.
content, we do everything. So that's one thing. Okay. The other reason why people get stuck is they say, I don't know what to say. So I don't know what to talk about, right? I don't know, if, yeah, I'll hire somebody from, here in my local neighborhood to come and film me, but I don't know what to say, right? And
Right.
so that's something that is a bottleneck, right? Obviously, we've solved for that as well, right?
Yes.
There's also I am shy and I'm not good on camera. Okay, and there's two reasons for that. Number one is you're an introvert. So
Mhm.
interestingly, I am an introvert. A lot of people don't think that. I think I've become more extroverted internally. Like I definitely recharge by myself, right? But
Yes.
but interestingly, like some people will talk to patients, but when they get on camera, they don't know how to sound polished. And that's something psychologically that they're not okay with. Again, we've solved for that.
Yes.
It was not me. I can't take credit. It was actually Chris, who is our lead shooter. And obviously Mike is equally as talented, but Chris was the first one to come in as our first shooter. And he says, how the doctors are so like nervous. And he said, let me tell you what I did. So we made these content guides, right? I took the copy call and I made these like 30-page scripts. And then we just have everything in there. Now we've made it even better because we layer SEO in there. But he says, this is what I do. I just have them to repeat after me. If you've been thinking about implants, you've got some questions. And then he stops. You've been thinking about implants, you've got some questions. Here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to know. I was like, oh my gosh, right? So then our editors put it together, or obviously we could use teleprompters, right? And so all of a sudden we solve for that. Now, there's one other thing that we've not been able to solve for. Okay.
What's that?
What's that, right? And that is people feeling, and this is probably childhood, okay? People feeling like if I go on and share how smart I am, that I'm going to offend people. People are going to think that I'm better than them.
Sure.
Right. Or something similar to that. And I've certainly like, well, I don't want people, because I don't want other dentists to see that I'm doing this, or they might think that I'm, desperate, or they might like all of these things. Right. And the truth and reality of what we see is that when you go on, it actually drives more dentists to refer to you, because they may say, well, I don't do, like, I know you do a lot of like full arch, right?
Yes.
And it might be someone that says, well, I don't do full arch, but I see his stuff. So let me send you to him. Like, I don't do that.
Right.
I do general dentistry. So it's actually going to drive other colleagues to actually respect you, has been my experience. But that is definitely something that is true that we see happening from time to time. And, I had one lady as well, beautiful. And again, this is a real talk podcast, beautiful young dentist. And she didn't want to get on camera. And I'm like, what's the truth? Right.
Yeah.
And the truth was that when she was in dental school, the professors, because she's so beautiful, they didn't think she was smart, or she felt like they didn't think she was smart. Okay. She felt that they didn't think she was smart, because they would be like, oh, you're so beautiful. And I don't think it was like they're trying to come on to her or anything like that, but she just felt the energy that they did not think that she was smart. And so in her mind, she wanted to be recognized. I'm not going to say judged, but she wanted to be like known for how smart she was versus like how she looked. And it's interesting, because when I went to speak on stage at Tower, talking about that event, and Brian Hunter did my intro, and he didn't have an intro. So he said, and I was like 2 minutes from going on. He says, by the way, can you just, because I think Eric was going to introduce me, and Eric was like speaking to someone or in a meeting, whatever. I was like, yeah, go to, digitalfloss.com/speaking. He gets like my speaking bio. He's like, this is really short, because it's 3 sentences. He says, this is the shortest bio I've ever seen. I said, yes, because I don't need the bio to introduce me. When I get on stage, people will know what I know. Right.
Yes.
And so
exactly.
And I said, it's the same thing. When someone comes on and they open up their mouth, they're going to know how smart you are. Right.
100%.
And so when you come on as an expert, which is what you just did recently in our shoot, people know how smart you are. Right. It doesn't matter what you look like. Right. Nope. So, yeah.
Anissa, I was going to say, I had that same trouble too in dental school with being too, no, I'm kidding. Yeah. Teasing there. But no, I completely understand that. I wanted to ask, listen, being the owner of Dental Floss and being built by a dentist for dentists and everything, what does that do for you what would you say that you get an opportunity to do that other traditional agencies would miss?
Yeah. A couple of things. Right.
Because that's a big deal.
It is.
It's a huge deal.
And again, everything's been a prerequisite, right? So being a real dentist, I know what it feels like to be a startup and have a small budget. Okay.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to want to grow fast. I know what it feels like to not want to have discounting. Okay. Because I didn't want to, I wasn't the discount dentist. I wasn't going to be. I wanted to be the best. Right. So I know those things. And so people come to me and they say, well, my last agency wanted us to have a bunch of discounts and I don't want that. Right. And I'm like, I
True.
know, I get it. Right. So I think that's really helpful being a real dentist. And again, being a consultant for many years, I think gives me a very different perspective as well. Because again, I understand the power of growing your EBITDA to be able to exit your company. And so there is significant value in a brand, right? And so let alone the additional revenue that's going to come from having the new patients that come in from the lead generation funnels and, the ad campaign and the pay-per-click campaigns. But just having a powerful brand is also going to add value, right? And so I understand those things. I taught verbal skills and neurolinguistic programming and NLP, and I taught sales because I was trying to figure out for my clients why the traditional model of case acceptance was broken. Because
Right.
people would just say, just add value. I'm like, what does that mean? And I went
Right.
down this rabbit hole of understanding and learning from people that would teach real estate agents how to sell real estate. I'm like, I'm just here in this mastermind because I want to understand the psychology behind it to build frameworks for my coaching clients, which I did. And so that allowed me now when we're building out copy, okay, to understand those things in terms of how I analyze and view the copy that we write for the campaigns to bring clients in. So it's psychology through the heart. It's psychology for persuasion. It's psychology for conversion. And again, working with Russell, so even with that, right, analyzing websites, which we weren't doing
Yes.
before. And now we are doing websites. We have to, because all the changes that are happening with AI, there's a lot of structural changes that need to be done on a website. And it's just easier for us to just do it ourselves. But understanding conversions allow me to look at websites. I'm like, that model is a little outdated because a lot of these beautiful sites with custom photography don't have a request appointment button on them. And if they do, it's so small that it's almost like a scavenger hunt sometimes on some of these sites that we review to find them. So it's just been very fascinating. Again, it's perspective as a dentist, but again, I think, and it's the same thing, Jeff, there's wisdom that comes from, I think we're probably around the same age. There's wisdom in life experience.
Absolutely.
And so same thing, if you're a dentist and you've done, crowns or implants for 20 years, 25 years, even 30 years, you've kind of seen it all, right? And so you know what works, you know what doesn't work, you know what happens when you try to people please a patient, knowing that it's not going to work, and you just handle things differently, right? You can come with a level of experience and expertise that allows you to solve problems faster. And I think that maybe what's happening here again, I've been in dentistry for almost like 20, 27 years, right?
Right.
But the other things in my journey, I think, have also been very instrumental, if you will.
I think that just, it puts you, I think one of the things that's one of the things that puts you just kind of in a category of one, like the unicorn, is you have the ability, that you have the marketing chops, you have the ability to think like a dentist, have an understanding as a dentist, and also be intelligent to look at, hey, what are the key KPIs? What am I paying attention to? And I don't want to show up and drive the, have the fastest race to the bottom for price.
Yeah.
I want to convert leads into patients in my practice by the value that I can bring them, but then coming to an understanding of finding the way to relate that. So I think that's so powerful. And, I think truly for me, that's one of the things that set you apart when I had an opportunity to look at that. And in speaking about this, I wanted to ask you, so for we can talk about the full social media aspect, geofencing, SEO and AI, what is it? SEO tune, for Google. You were sharing about some of that and ChatGPT, and for the doc listening, because you did a great job when you explained that to me initially, for the doc listening, what's the easiest way to understand that whole stack together? Because you were like, Jeff, you don't want ads pointing to your website. And so just kind of, I think it's one of those things that like, we're not thinking about this all the time, but if you can help the doc who's listening get a kind of understanding of some of that, how that all stacks together, that'd be beautiful.
Yeah. So the first thing is, how do you want to be known? How do you want people to see you? That's where it starts.
Right.
Okay. And so what do you want to be known for? So is it airway? Is it full arch, implants, clear aligners, pediatric dentistry, whatever, right? Like, what is it? What is your culture? What do people feel when they come to your practice, right? And so that's the first thing. And once we have that, then we want you to be seen everywhere, right? Jay Abraham, he's another like incredible old school marketer who's highly respected. He actually, spoke at Tower Leadership. I know Eric Moran, I believe, is working with him. He's one of Eric's mentors, but he mentioned that as well. He's like, if you want to be an authority, you have to be seen everywhere. Right. And so it's taking the content, so filming a video, filming videos and putting them on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube and also Google. Google gives us the playbook. So Google says, upload to me. Google's toolbar at the top says short form videos, right? And so it's giving you the literal algorithm. So we are, again, we're posting to Google. We are doing short form videos on all platforms. And here's the thing, couple things. Number one is that Instagram is now being searchable by Google. So everything that we write on Instagram, all the words, all the copy is what we call it, right? So the words that go with the photo, right? That's searchable by Google. Okay.
That's amazing.
That is massive because websites typically, especially in the dental space, people are not updating their website every month or even every year. And so if we have the ability to use a different method to be able to get Google to pick up data, that is really impactful. The other thing is that ChatGPT and the LLMs, so Claude and Gemini, like all the LLMs and Google AI, they are looking at not just websites. So that was how it was for many years. You go to website or you go to Google and you say, best dentist Chicago. And then if your website says best dentist Chicago, or, you've got some SEO, it would match you, right? And what's happening now is, yes, it looks at websites, but it looks at reviews. And then it looks at every data point that it can find. Okay. So it's not going to Google. People say, oh yeah, it's going to, no, that's not what's happening. It is literally going just like Google does, just like Bing does. It goes and gets data, right? So it's searching data on Yelp or on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or X or all the platforms. So again, it's so simple. It seems like, Anissa, this is a lot. Well, the reality is that if you just you make a video and it gets posted everywhere, guys, that's the short story. Like just get content and post it everywhere. It's going to benefit you everywhere. But the other thing too is that the video, right? Like let's just say we're making a video. We want to put a video a couple places. We want to put it on your website, right? Why?
Yes.
Because when people go to your website, typically what they're seeing right now is a bunch of stock content. And what I tell doctors is, I don't want to build your brand like your Neiman Marcus and who you are and your authentic self. And your website looks like the dollar store, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why we want to have custom photos so that people, it all like is seamless, right? And the video that's coming on, and the video could be like, imagine if we built a practice based on trust, or it starts with integrity. What if we built a practice, put it on the team first? And the team's like, I've never worked for a doctor like this. Like over here, we're like family. And then the patient's like, I can't believe what happened. This dentist, like I went in and he literally completely changed my life. And look at my, and we now have this on your website. Okay. Which is first embedded in YouTube, which is going to help with your Google as well, but it's on your website. And now there's a big box there where people can put in their information. And now on the back end, they're getting a call in 1 minute, right? Like this is powerful stuff. So that's where you now take the content and you're able to have the engine, right? And so it's interesting. Sometimes people say, and they'll see me and they're like, oh, she's the branding girl. I'm like, you have no idea, right? And so it's literally the brand, yes, but it's on Instagram. running ads so we can get 40, 50, 60,000 people see it for $500 ad spend, which is
Oh my
crazy,
gosh, that's
right? Because
crazy.
Instagram wants people to make content. Nobody does. So for those who do and run ads, it's like super cheap. But then on the website and everything else, we want to be able to get leads. And again, when people see your site and they now have the ability to click and they automatically can book, now we have the engine in the back. And the difference between the funnel and the website, just because you asked. So a funnel is not a website. It can look like a website, but a website has, a team page and it has services page. It's built also really for SEO. That's really what it's built for. All of these different pages to have lots of words about each service allows you to be picked up by the LLM. So you definitely want to make sure you have that. But on a funnel, it's basically like, go here, watch the video, book an appointment, right? It doesn't have any other page. And for ads, people typically will go to the page. Sometimes because it's an ad, they'll click off. And so if they're doing that on your actual website, it can actually affect your bounces and it can actually hurt you in SEO. So yeah. So that's all of that. And you'll feel like, what? Right? You just do it from me.
These things are amazing. And listen, guys, I mean, these are things that you may or may not be thinking about, but these are things that have a tremendous impact on your practice, and like, let's just put it bluntly, like, let's say the next 3 to 5 years that, like, what percentage of practices will be, I would even call it functionally invisible if they kind of slept on the AI and
it's going to happen.
Yeah. And
it's
everything.
definitely going to happen.
Because that's modern marketing.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's going to happen. And, some people are saying, oh, well, Google's fine. And look, I'm hearing it all and I get it. And some of it is just people are just not aware. Right. So one of my team members yesterday was texting me. She's like, I can't believe, this person who owns an agency is saying, that if you're good on Google, you're good on ChatGPT and AI. I'm like, well, they're partially right. Right. But they're partially not. And maybe they are just not aware, and that's okay. Right. And what I mean by that is that if you focused on doing, things in the past, posting on social in the past, or having a good website in the past, if you made an effort in the past, you're still going to be number one right now. Okay. But as people are now understanding how the LLMs work, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, that really it's kind of like not optional really if you want to get in these platforms to be in omnipresence everywhere, because it's picking up data everywhere, right? And so what happens is that, let's just say we've been practicing probably around the same number of years, right? So let's just say I'm practicing 25 years and I've got all these Google reviews, right? Google, okay? And everything's like built on my website and Google, right? And then all of a sudden somebody comes in, and it could be somebody again who's been practicing for 30 years, or somebody who's been practicing for 2 years. And comes in and now is doing this type of marketing. Their content is everywhere. The content is good. The copy also, interestingly, so we listened to someone from OpenAI, ChatGPT at Go High Level, and he says AI does not like to read other AI. AI is looking for human. So if you have, that's why we have human copywriters for our copy. So we use a copy, we have a human call, we use AI to build out 80% of the framework. But we have experienced amazing copywriters that put the human on it. So it's not detectable by AI because it's not written by AI, right? But anyway, long story short, let's just say you have somebody out of practice a couple years and they now are they understand the algorithms, okay? They are now going to be recommended by ChatGPT over you because they have more consistency, they have more data. I mean, this is what, and here's the thing, like this is definitely a prediction, right? But when I started Facebook, there were no ads. Okay. When I started marketing my practice. And so that's why I got 50,000, because anytime somebody would see my content, they would have to like the page to see it again. And so when ads came out a couple years ago, I had an unfair advantage because I already had an audience that I did not even pay for, that other people now had to pay. Okay. It's free right now to get like recommended. And once ChatGPT and these LLMs recommend you, and this is what I heard right out of someone from ChatGPT, it's going to, once it sees you as a trusted authority, it's just going to keep you as the trusted authority. And so let's just say the first 3 or 4 practices per location or per specialty, per location, sometimes per ethnic group. I want somebody to speak Spanish or right.
Right.
Once the first people are established, I doubt, and again, this is just my guess, right? They're not going to have 40 pages or 30 pages or 10 pages or 3 pages of options. It's going to recommend, 3, 4, 5 people. And so that's
Those top
why
players.
you're smart,
Absolutely.
Jeff, to I'm not waiting on this, right?
No.
Because it's the time, and the doctors that started with us, 2 years ago, they're at the top of Google. Most of them are not doing Google ads or SEO. They're at the top of AI overviews, which is significant
Huge.
right now. That is huge right now. The overviews, they're
Yes.
being recommended in overviews. They're at the top of maps. They're at the top of Google, and they're being recommended in ChatGPT. And 0 Google ads and 0 SEO. And I'm not saying don't do Google ads. I think Google is still relevant right now. So I do recommend let's be omnipresent, put some ad spend to Google, do, the Instagram reel ads, which are like $500 budget, and then let the organic work for you for the AI. And that to me is the ideal formula. That's, you do that, game over.
I love it. You have just been dropping pure gold. And I mean, it's just been awesome. And I love it because I know you geek out on it, but you hear you're passionate. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about you. Let's do a little fast and furious, a little lightning around here on just some questions that pepper you with as we start to wrap everything up. But give me one marketing myth in dentistry that really kind of needs to die yesterday.
Yeah. Marketing myth that needs to die, I think, is that you have to give discounts.
Yes, absolutely agree.
Yes.
Absolutely agree.
So many agencies are like, you have to give a discount. Even ones that are, they're reputable agencies, but I just don't think that you have to. And the reason why I believe they actually do have to is that when you don't have good content where people can actually make a connection, then people are making a decision with their head, right? And so let's just say I'm looking for full arch, okay? And I've never seen your content, right, Jeff? And so I'm just like, oh, I want full arch, right? And so I might be like, oh, who's the cheapest? But let's just say, as I'm doing my discovery, I see your content, okay? And I see your stories of your patients and their experiences. At that point, I shift in my mind, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going anywhere else. I don't even know how much you're gonna charge me.
Right.
I have no idea, but I'm making a decision because I'm like, this guy, because I'm not gonna have somebody to mess me up, right? And mess up so I'm going to him no matter what. If you're in network, out of network, and when you don't have content that's really good, you have no choice but to market with discounts.
And I think that's important because I think you've got buyers that go through this journey. They have to go A to B to C to D, right? And if you're just looking at saying, I'm going to market to you like you're already at D and we're just going to focus on costs and just drive this down, that's one way to look at it. But if you're talking about with what you guys do, where you create an emotional story or you create this heartfelt content, now you're actually taking and moving that individual from A to B to C.
Fast.
So you're changing that individual's worldview and their self view, and you're allowing them to see something different for themselves and consider a whole new buying decision that they didn't even have as a possibility, 10 minutes before. And
and it's putting ads on that. You see what I'm saying? So it's when you don't put ads on that, then it becomes branding, right? It's when you put ads on, do some Google ads, run into a funnel with a video, right? Have Facebook ads, meta ads, it's fine, right? But when you have this type of content, or, let's just say you have some, photo posts, right? What people are going to do is they're going to do their due diligence, especially if they're coming in to do full arch, right?
Correct.
Or if they're going to do airway or full clear aligners, and they go do their due diligence and they see the content that you have or who you are versus somebody else, they're going to be like, this is a good human, right? And so if something doesn't go right, maybe it doesn't, are you going to blame me? Or are you going to shame me? Or are you going to love on me?
Yep.
And that's how I'm also making decisions. Like almost all of my doctors are actually out of network for my insurance. And it's okay
Me too.
because I
100%.
just think they're good human. And if something goes wrong or sideways, which sometimes things do, how are they going to treat me as a patient? Right. So, yeah.
I love that. I want to know a couple more questions here, and then we'll get some things wrapped.
Yeah.
But what do you think is the most underrated? I'm going to either give you underrated platform or tactic for dentists in marketing in well, we're wrapping up 2025,
Yeah.
but as we go into 2026 here, even.
I can tell you. So definitely on their websites, not having a way to capture lead information
Okay.
in a follow-up process. So people will have book appointment and typically that goes to like a website form and then the team never follows up. And so they're not in this process of like, let's just say you have a website form and you're using like a go high level, right? Or you have this process. So as somebody comes in, they're now getting text message, they're getting email. And if they're not booking an appointment, they're going to continue to be nurtured, automated, right? And so most people don't have that process in place, or they don't have a way for the patient to be contacted right away, whether it's a phone call, AI agent, or a text message. So that's a huge gap,
Big deal.
a huge opportunity, right? Specifically on the website side.
That's great. And that's a
Yeah.
great answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think this is good too, like, especially for even new docs or somebody that's maybe starting like a de novo or anything else. Like if you had to go back and do dentistry and if you lost everything that you have currently, your current lifestyle, everything there, and you had to rebuild, what would you do? Like, let's say you had to rebuild everything in 12 months. Like what would be your first move in that?
Oh, I can tell you. So it's interesting. So Russell Brunson had us to write a book, had me write a chapter in his book, The 30 Days. And so I think Garrett might have written a chapter in that book as well. Right. And so he actually asked us that and we published it. What would happen if you lost everything and you had 30 days? 30 days, not even a year.
Not 12 months, 30 days. I love this.
Right?
This
What would you do
crunch of time.
if you had 30 days? Right. And it was exactly this, right? It was to get out and market yourself, right? And so it's what you're doing with, social media and all of the things, get out channels, but it's also internal marketing, right? Like, how are we connecting with our actual patients? What are we doing with other businesses, right? So it was like this whole game plan. Like on this week, we're going to do this, right? So there are ways that you can build collaborations with other dentists, right? So, or other physicians, right? We have practices that are airway practices and they are doing sleep studies and they're connecting with specialists or saying, tell me the name of your MD. And then they'll send the MD and say, by the way, we have a mutual patient. We just did a sleep study, just letting you know that this patient has sleep apnea. Now that MD, who has no idea who you are sending all of their airway patients to you, right? 100%. So it's those types of things. It's doing collaborative social media campaigns saying, hey, give me a gift card for your gym. Give me a gift card for your spa, right? And so you're getting gift cards and every day you're like loving on them. Take care of people to take care of you. Today we're going to be doing this promotion on this. Today we're going to be doing this. Like you promote them. And at the same time you say like, let's just work together. Can we just collaborate and be one? And at the same time, they are now, we did this with my practice where we would have a patient and every patient that came in that worked that didn't have insurance, I'm like, oh, well, if we have a different business every single month. We help them, put us in touch with their HR department, right? And what we do is we'd have a different business and we would give them, again, there was no insurance. We give them 5%, 10% off, and this was a first time, one time, not every time like a PPO. And they would come in and what would happen is that we get their friends and family. And it's just like, there's so many things that you can do. And it's just by, again, creativity, right? Because we can create whatever we want with our mind. But if you had a month, like, let's just say you build strategic partnerships with other businesses, strategic alliances with other professionals. If you're a specialist, like for you, I would be like, have study clubs, bring in other dentists to your office, show them what you know, right? They're going to now refer to you. And then obviously do good dentistry.
Yeah, you better back it up. That's the
That's right.
perfect thing. Oh my gosh. You literally just spewed nuggets this whole time. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to just interview you and just for you to share all this. Because guys, the rest of this year, don't send it in as we wrap up 2025. You can finish this year very, very strong. And then as we roll into 2026, it's time to really get yourself 100% clear on what is it that I really want this year? What do I want to accomplish? And just start to really think about that vision. So, for the dentist who's listening and thinking, I don't want to be no longer be the best kept secret, in my town anymore.
Yeah.
What's the next step to actually look at with you and Digital Floss? If they wanted to reach out to you, what's the first step there?
Yeah, it's easy. Just go to digitalfloss.com and see what we're doing. You can see tons of client shares, experiences, testimonials, and we're really proud. We're doing really, really phenomenal work. And, not only are we really getting accolades from our practices, but we're also covering media for major conferences, events. We work with Straumann and Neodent. We're covering Hemin in Greater New York, Yankee. And so, Florida Dental and many of these events we're doing, dental intelligence multiple years in a row now. And that doesn't come, by accident, right? It comes with doing a good service and being intentional and delivering a really, really good product. And so for us, just like I shared, that my dad shared, it's just like, take care of people, like love on people and they'll take care of you. And so for us, we just, we're here. I'm a dentist. Like I see this as my purpose and my calling. And I was told that it was my assignment in meditation, right? Like this is what I'm supposed to do. And so, yeah, reach out to us, Digital Floss. And, when you come on the call, we're going to look at what you're doing. We are going to ask you questions and we're going to give you a custom plan and we'll be able to share with you how we can help you. Right. And so, if you're like, I don't know if I can afford it or I don't, I want to grow this fast. Can you help me? Call us. Right. And let's have a conversation and see how we can make it happen for you.
Well, that's awesome. Anissa, thank you so much for your time and your incredible brain, the way that you think through things. It's amazing. And just thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And I can't wait to see what this next year brings for you, for us, for all the listeners. And so I'm excited as we wrap up 2025, go into 2026. Let's have an adventure together. And thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.